My office window stretches across the skyline of Chicago, glass glinting under the late afternoon sun. The city below hums with movement, delivery trucks, coffee runs, hurried steps. A rhythm I once only dreamed of being part of. I lean back in my leather chair, the smooth silk of my blouse brushing against my skin, a subtle reminder of how far I've come. To anyone walking in right now, I look composed, maybe even untouchable. The CEO of a company whose logo you'll spot on half the delivery vans out there. But what they don't see, what no one really knows, is the silence that comes just before my phone buzzes. And then it does. A sharp vibration against the oak desk. I glance at the screen. The name flashing there makes my breath catch. Rachel, my cousin. The same cousin who laughed the loudest the night I first shared my crazy idea. The one who told me, in front of everyone, that startups were for men with money, not girls with pipe dreams. I let the phone keep buzzing. My reflection stares back at me from the glass window, steady now, but I remember when it wasn't. I remember the shaky hands, the tears I fought to hide, the humiliation of being mocked by people I thought would support me. Funny how life circles back. She has no idea that the pipe dream she ridiculed now delivers to her doorstep. In fact, it delivers everywhere. And today, whether I'm ready or not, that past is calling. I was 21 when I first said it out loud. We were all gathered in my aunt's living room. Rachel, my older brother Daniel, my parents, and a few family friends. It was one of those noisy Sunday nights, everyone with plates of casserole balanced on their laps, laughing too loud, teasing each other in that way families do. I'd been holding it in for weeks, sketching ideas in a spiral notebook I kept hidden under my bed. The dream felt so big, so fragile, like if I spoke it into existence, someone could crush it with a single word. Still, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. So I said it. I want to start my own delivery service. Something smarter. Local shops, quick turnaround, not just for big corporations. For everyday people. The room went silent for a second. And then laughter. Rachel was the first to speak, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Sophia, you can't even keep gas in your old Honda. You think you're going to compete with Amazon? Daniel chimed in, smirking. It's cute, sophomore. But maybe stick to something safe. A teaching job. Nursing. Something realistic. Even my mom's smile wavered, as though she wanted to believe in me, but didn't dare to. And my dad, he just shook his head. No words, just disappointment. I felt the lump forming in my throat, the sting behind my eyes. My palms were slick, my notebook suddenly heavy on my lap. I wanted to defend myself, to explain how I'd run numbers, how small businesses were desperate for better local options, how I believed technology could help. But the words tangled, stuck between my heart and my lips. That night, I went upstairs and locked my bedroom door. I sat on the floor with that notebook and cried until my chest ached. But then, as if the universe couldn't bear to see me give up, I remembered something. On my dresser sat a small silver compass, my grandmother's. She'd given it to me the year before, pressed it into my palm with her thin, wrinkled fingers. Whenever you feel lost, she whispered, this will remind you. You already know the way. Don't let anyone tell you where you can't go. I picked up that compass, cool against my skin, and held it tight. That was the moment. The shift. The part of me that had been fragile suddenly hardened. They could laugh, they could doubt, but I wasn't going to let their voices drown out mine. The very next week, I walked into the community college's business center and signed up for free workshops. I didn't know where the road would lead, but I knew I had to take the first step. And I did it alone. Those first months felt like running uphill in shoes 2 sizes too small, painful, awkward, but impossible to quit. I'd finish my part-time job at a downtown cafe, smelling like espresso and vanilla syrup, then drive my beat-up Honda Civic straight to the library. There, I'd spread my notes across a table, eyes burning from lack of sleep, and dive into articles about logistics, app design, and business licensing. Most nights, I'd end up with ink smudged on my fingers, hair tied in a messy bun, and a half-eaten granola bar for dinner. My friends were out at bars, posting group selfies, while I was watching YouTube tutorials about API integrations. I wasn't glamorous. I wasn't even confident. But I was determined. One evening, after another failed attempt to code a scheduling feature, I slammed my laptop shut and whispered, maybe Rachel was right. That's when a voice startled me. You know, you don't have to figure it all out alone. I looked up to see a woman, late 30s, sharp blazer, kind eyes, smiling at me from across the table. Her name was Janet Moore, a visiting entrepreneur who occasionally lectured at the college. I'd seen her once before, speaking about breaking barriers in male-dominated industries. She pulled out a chair and sat with me. I've been watching you here the last few nights. You've got grit. Most people don't. Tell me your idea. And so, nervously, I did. Unlike my family, Janet didn't laugh. She leaned in, asked questions, challenged me, even poked holes in my plan, but with respect. And before she left, she scribbled her number on a sticky note. Call me. You're going to need allies. That sticky note became my lifeline. Janet became my mentor, guiding me through small but critical steps, registering the business, pitching to local shops, finding a coder willing to work for equity. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Still, the struggle was relentless. I remember the humiliation of delivering food orders myself when drivers canceled. I remember crying in my car after a restaurant manager laughed at my tiny operation. I remember nights staring at my bank balance, wondering if I'd have to sell that silver compass just to keep the lights on. But then came the first breakthrough. A local bakery owner, Mrs. Hernandez, signed up to partner with us. Her words still echo. Sophia, if you can get my cupcakes across town in under 30 minutes, you'll have my heart forever. I personally handled every delivery that week. And when she called me 3 days later saying sales had doubled, I felt something click inside me. This wasn't just a dream anymore. It was real. From there, the wins slowly stacked up. A boutique clothing store, a florist, a small tech startup. Each new partner was proof that I wasn't crazy, that this could work. Still, I kept quiet around my family. Whenever they asked, I'd shrug and say, oh, just working at the cafe, taking classes. I posted modest updates online, never the late nights, the contracts, or the fact that I was reinvesting every dollar. Because one day, I wanted the reveal to be undeniable. Not just an explanation, but a reality so big they couldn't laugh it away. And deep down, I knew that day would come. The invitation wasn't supposed to be dramatic. At least, that's what I told myself. I'd sent a simple email to my family, come by my office next Friday at 3 p.m. I'd like to share something with you. No details. No explanations. Just enough to spark their curiosity. That Friday, I stood in the lobby of our downtown Chicago headquarters, smoothing the sleeve of my cream-colored blazer. My heart pounded, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from anticipation. The elevator dinged, and there they were. My mom, my dad, my brother Daniel, and of course Rachel, clutching her designer tote like a badge of superiority. They all looked around, confused, glancing at the marble floors, the glass walls, the sleek logo mounted proudly above the reception desk, Swift Route. Daniel frowned. Wait, this is where you work? I smiled. Something like that. I led them down the hallway, their footsteps echoing against polished concrete. We passed walls lined with photos of small business owners, florists, bakers, bookshop owners, all smiling proudly beside Swift Route delivery vans. Rachel muttered under her breath, "This looks legit." We stepped into my office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago River, sunlight spilling across the oak desk where my grandmother's silver compass sat neatly beside my laptop. Behind me, shelves held awards: fastest-growing startup, Innovator of the Year, top 100 women in business. I gestured for them to sit. They didn't. They just stood, wide-eyed, taking it all in. Finally, my dad spoke. "Sophia, what is all this?" I let the silence hang, savoring the moment. Then, with calm clarity, I said, "This is mine. I built Swift Route from nothing. We partner with over 10,000 local businesses across the country. And as of last month, we've expanded into every major U.S. city." The words landed like thunder. Rachel laughed nervously. Wait, you're kidding, right? You started this. I tilted my head. You remember, don't you? The night in Aunt Linda's living room? When you said I couldn't compete with Amazon. I walked over to the window, my heels clicking against the floor. Turns out, I didn't need to compete. I just needed to be smarter, faster, more personal. And guess what? People wanted that. Daniel sank into a chair, running a hand through his hair. Soph, you're telling me you're the CEO? Yes. I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. I own 60% of this company. The rest is investors and my team. But make no mistake, this was my idea, my work, my fight. The room was silent except for the faint hum of traffic below. My mom's eyes welled with tears, torn between pride and guilt. My dad stared at the compass on my desk, recognition flickering across his face. Rachel, though, was the most shaken. She looked around at the awards, the elegant office, the success she once called impossible. I didn't know, she whispered. No, I said softly. You didn't want to know. You wanted to believe I was a dreamer destined to fail. But here we are. For the first time in my life, they were the speechless ones. Their doubt, their mockery, their dismissal, it all collapsed in this room, replaced by the undeniable truth of what stood before them. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the desk. You mocked my startup. And now? It's in every city. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable for me. It was power. For once, I wasn't the girl with shaky hands, begging to be believed. I was the woman who proved them all wrong. I let the silence linger a little longer, then folded my arms and leaned against the edge of my desk. They were all staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. My parents looked fragile, Daniel looked guilty, and Rachel, well, Rachel looked like someone who just realized the ground beneath her wasn't as solid as she thought. I invited you here, I began slowly, because I wanted you to see the truth with your own eyes. Not rumors. Not assumptions. Reality. Rachel crossed her arms, defensive. Okay, fine. You proved us wrong. Congratulations. But what do you want from us now? Apologies. Her tone stung, but I didn't flinch. Not apologies. Accountability. I walked to the shelf and picked up the silver compass, running my thumb over its smooth surface. For years, I carried your words in my chest like weights. You mocked me. You doubted me. And maybe that was fuel, but it was also pain. I don't need your validation now. What I do need is honesty from all of you. Daniel shifted in his chair. Soph, I was wrong. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment. But I wasn't. I was just afraid you'd surpass me. And you did. His admission caught me off guard, but I nodded. Thank you. That's a start. Then I turned to Rachel. You laughed the hardest. You made me feel small, like my dreams were a joke. If you want a relationship with me moving forward, it comes with a condition. You stop tearing people down. Not just me. Anyone. If I ever hear you mock someone else's ambition the way you mocked mine, we're done. Do you understand? Her face flushed. She opened her mouth to argue, but something in my tone must have struck her. She just nodded tightly. Next, my gaze fell on my parents. My mom's eyes were already brimming with tears. My dad stared at the floor, ashamed. You wanted me to play it safe, I said quietly. And I get it, you didn't want to watch me fail. But your fear almost cost me my future. From now on, if you want to be in my life, you have to support me without conditions. Even if you don't understand. Even if it scares you. Because your silence, your doubt, it hurt more than Rachel's laughter. My mom broke first. She reached across the desk, her hand trembling. Sophia, I'm sorry. We should have believed in you. We will now. No matter what. I let her hold my hand, just for a moment, before pulling back. Good. Because I won't let anyone, family or not, make me feel small again. I straightened, sliding the compass back into place on my desk. Here's the truth. I don't need anything from you. Not money, not approval, not permission. The only thing I want is respect. Give me that, and maybe we can move forward. Fail too, and I'll keep building my life, with or without you. The room was heavy with the weight of my words. For the first time in years, I wasn't the girl begging for belief. I was the woman setting the terms. And they knew it. The weeks that followed were different. Rachel didn't transform overnight, but I noticed small shifts. When her friend pitched a new Etsy shop idea, instead of laughing, she offered to help with marketing. Daniel started showing up at community entrepreneur events, quietly asking questions instead of making snide remarks. And my parents, well, they called more often, not to pry, but simply to say, "We're proud of you." It wasn't perfect. Healing rarely is. But it was progress. One evening, I stayed late at the office. The city glittered outside, thousands of lights pulsing with energy. I stood by the window, the silver compass warm in my palm. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one with shaky hands, fighting tears in a crowded living room while her family laughed. That girl had felt so small, so powerless. But she hadn't stayed that way. She had picked up the compass. She had chosen her own direction. And she had become me. I placed the compass back on my desk, beside the latest plaque we'd earned. Top startup in America. For a moment, I let the weight of it all settle in. The struggle, the doubt, the nights of exhaustion, the victories no one saw until they couldn't be ignored. It wasn't revenge that satisfied me. It was growth. It was knowing I hadn't let their voices break me. Now, when I think about Rachel's mocking laughter, Daniel's dismissive smirk, my father's silence, I don't feel bitterness. I feel gratitude. Because without their doubt, I might never have discovered the fire inside me. The door to my office opened softly. Janet, my mentor, stepped in with her usual confident stride. "You're still here," she said, smiling. "Just wrapping up," I replied, glancing back at the skyline. She nodded toward the compass. "Still guiding you?" I smiled, my chest swelling with quiet pride. "Always." That night, as I finally shut down my laptop and gathered my things, I whispered to myself, words I wish the trembling 21-year-old Sophia could have heard back then. They mocked my startup. Now it's in every city. And for the first time, those words didn't feel like defiance. They felt like peace.